Oi. Cheers. Hi, it's Kendall here. New around here, welcome. Not new around here, what is up? Home skillet biscuit. Happy 2025. It's actually been quite a long time since I've been in front of the camera. I don't know if it's really obvious, but I'm feeling really awkward because I haven't spoken to myself in a room by myself in a while. Boop, boop. It probably doesn't seem like that long for you guys because you've been watching Christmas shenanigans for the last month, but we're here to talk about a favorite on the channel. That is the Lachey's up people's lives. Yes. While I was gone, I was bombarded, heckled even, bullied, to be quite frank with you, to talk about the ultimatum. There is a third season of the US original stint. I think it's the original. I've only known the US to be the original in this case, but they have a third season and it's messy and I have a lot of opinions, but also I feel kind of conflicted because also I feel like all my feelings boil down to, do you know what the show is about? If you knew what the show is about, your complaints make no sense because you're here, you know? But okay, so today we're talking about it. This is probably gonna be a long ass video, so you're welcome for those of you that like the longer ones. And yes, because I always have opinions. But first things first, since it has been a little while since I've been on camera, there's quite a lot of updates. Probably the most obvious is that I got my little babe boop right here. I shaved all my hair off for New Year's Eve. I've been talking about going bald, just out of sheer frustration for years at this point. And I'm turning 30 in a few days at the time of filming, and I'm ready to be in my grown and sexy era. I've been singing a lot of Toni Braxton, like early Toni Braxton. Ooh, I get so high when I'm around you, baby. I can touch the sky. You make my temperature rise. You making me high, baby, 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 baby. Yeah, it's been so nice. My boyfriend made the mistake of leaving his clippers here, and I actually did it myself. I think I did all right. I was gonna go to a professional, but I believe in myself too much, so. But I'm digging my little boop boopy doop right now, so I want to put some finger waves in it. Just sickening. Okay. Also, while I've been away, I've had a few hyperfixations take place that I haven't had the chance to show you guys. Mainly, I don't know if you can see over here. Am I pointing to the right? I'm pointing to it in my eyesight. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. I have a vinyl player because my boyfriend bought me Sleep Token Take Me Back to Eden on vinyl. That's a good man, Samantha. Now I've purchased a bunch of things on vinyl and it's really making the vibe of my apartment vibe. The vibe is vibing. Okay. This low-key nasty. They shouldn't sell this to people. I'm gonna drink it though. Because if it's an ultimatum or Love is Blind related media, it's gonna drive me to drink. So let's just do that. If that's all, I'm gonna send it away to Admiral Kennie so we can pay these bills and then get on to the shenanigans. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit delivery service that offers you fresh, delicious, and healthy meals straight to the comfort of your own home. Pre-measured, pre-packaged. You don't have to go shopping for ingredients, and you don't have to buy the whole bottle of something when you only need a tablespoon. They have easy to follow recipe cards if you're a beginner. HelloFresh is actually how I got to be a more confident cook in general. I always felt like I was doing a lot wrong. Like my food never tasted how I wanted it to. But now that I have the easy to follow recipe cards, you start to notice patterns in like what makes good food in general, but I don't have to go to the grocery store to get any other things, and it's awesome. Most meals can be made in under 30 minutes, some even less than that, like way less than that. You can get extras on the sides like desserts or breakfast. Their egg bites are fire, as well as pre-cooked proteins that get the meal on the table even quicker. They also have snacks and beverages. Really everything you need to make your cooking experience that much more convenient and fun, honestly. It feels like gamification of cooking, and that's really fun. So if you would like to try out HelloFresh, go to HelloFresh.com and get up to 10 free meals and free shipping on your first box at HelloFresh.com when you use code Kennie10FM. The free meals apply as discount on your first box, and it is only for new customers only. So if you're new, check it out. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals on your first box and free shipping with code Kennie10FM. Big thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. Again, like I said, The Ultimatum came back for season 3. It was actually last month that it came back, and I'm late because I guess Netflix forgot that have families and want to spend time with their families for the holiday instead of making reaction content. Also, I have lashes sticking together and it's pissing me off. For the 4.5 of you that are unfamiliar with The Ultimatum, it is a Netflix reality dating show. It's like the spin-off, so to speak, of Love is Blind that also has the Lachey's as hosts. But the premise of this show is that they bring on couples and one person out of the couple is issuing an ultimatum, which means marry me at the end of this or we break up. And in order to figure out whether or not you want to stay with this person, you go into a trial marriage where you basically partner swap with other people that are also issuing ultimatums and receiving ultimatums, basically seeing if maybe you would get along better with somebody else, or maybe you would enjoy marriage or the thought of playing house. You don't really do much marriage wise, but playing house with another person, and maybe that can help you decide whether or not you're ready for marriage with your original partner. If it sounds like a dumb idea, it is. It's a stupid idea. I don't think it really helps people figure out much of anything. Innately, if you're bringing your partner onto this, you are having some issues with reaching commitment. I don't think that bringing them on a show is changing that. You have fundamental issues that maybe you should consider going to a therapist about, maybe couples therapy even. But coming to Netflix to fix your relationship, bad sign, bad call, don't recommend it. But alas, people have done it again. And this season, I believe we are in Los Angeles, which presents a very particular style of person. Spoiler, I hate all the men. This season I'm doing a little different than how I had done other seasons because, again, being that this season came out last month, I've seen all of it. So a lot of times I'm doing it as they release episodes, but this one I'm kind of recalling how I felt as the story progressed, if you will. And like I said, I got thoughts. If you would like to see any of my other videos, by the way, that I've done on The Ultimatum or Love is Blind, I have a whole playlist for that. Go at it. I have plenty for you to watch. You're welcome. Like I said, The Ultimatum this season, I believe, is set in California. And I think already the premise of The Ultimatum attracts very insecure couples by nature of what is the premise of the show. Because anybody that thinks that doing this will make your partner want to be with you is a child. Like, y'all are children. Grow up. Go to therapy. Anyway, that's my thing. Okay, before we even get started, I would like to make a request, Netflix. Can we add a premise of therapy along the way for this show in particular? Because I think it would be very interesting to do couples therapy with maybe even both couples, but especially the original couples, to like check in as you're doing the trial marriages. I think that would be very interesting. It might get a little messy recording wise, but I just think that would be a lot more helpful to these people as well as us. I think we could actually get some drama in that, but also get some like value in that. You know what I mean? Just a thought. Don't nobody listen to me anyway. If you take that idea, I want my money. Love to be like, oh, we just heard on the internet. No, you heard from me, bitch. Like the anyway, but like I said, because if it is in LA, there is this very much, there's a flexing vibe that a lot of the participants, particularly the men, seem to have. All of the men, perhaps more so than any other season. I can't think of a season right now. They are all so painfully insecure. I don't know if that has anything to do with it being in LA or just the type of people that ended up on this season. But the men all feel very insecure and threatened by each other. Also, it feels like they're trying to front for like they seem very aware of cameras, trying to front for the camera, trying to plug to the camera even to some degree.
I think your look is everything. I mean, look at me now. Just was earned, not given. Going to a date without smelling good. So here we got my favorite scent I sprayed behind my ear.
It's very off-putting. I hadn't noted this progression of the Netflix Love is Blind universe becoming more and more influenced. You know what I mean? It's becoming more and more fodder for TikTok and other social media platforms. I will say that this season wasn't nearly as messy as other seasons of these shows. So for me, it just felt like the whole show felt very product placement-y. Again, either the contestants are trying to plug themselves or producers are trying to make them plug themselves and plug the show. It's, again, very off-putting, but okay. But I forgot it was nasty that quickly. Oh my God. But we do the meeting of all the couples introduced by the Lachey's, and I noticed very quickly that their energy seemed a bit off. I was watching the first few episodes with my boyfriend and I was like, does it feel like they fought? And he said, yes. I was getting a vibe. And I was like, yeah, it feels like they fought. And then soon they would talk about like they had a fight the night before. And I was like, which is very realistic. Couples fight sometimes, but it was just good. I just felt good knowing that my instincts weren't off. They didn't say anything at first. I was just like, do you guys feel a vibe? Because I feel a vibe. And then they said they had actually fought the night before. And I was like, ah, there we go. But this isn't about them. It's about the couples that have all made the terrible decision to come onto the show and swap each other's partners to see if they have some form of clarity about whether or not they are going to get married at the end of this. So let's talk about the couples, okay? We have Zaina and JR. Zaina looks like Cardi B. It's very distracting. Like, she would say stuff and I'm expecting her to sound like Cardi B and she never does. And it throws me off. Like, her smile is just like Cardi B. And I keep expecting her to say some out of pocket shit, but she's actually very chill and calm. Actually quite mature in comparison to all the other people that are on this show. She's in her 30s. She did issue the ultimatum, which I think is innately an immature thing to do, but if she's on the show and we're, comparing, I guess. Generally speaking, level-headed. She's in her 30s and she seems to be talking a little bit more about like her biological clock and wanting to date with the purpose of having a marriage and kids at the forefront, and JR seems to not quite be there yet. Her partner JR hated him immediately. I felt very quickly that he was one of those people that were trying to sell himself. I don't know specifically what. He is a personal trainer. I get the sense that he's trying to sell himself as a personal trainer. There's also kind of trying to sell himself as like rugged and masculine and like a ladies' man. He strikes me as incredibly insecure, which come to find out, ding, ding, ding. We later find out that he actually is the son of a pastor. So he had a very religious upbringing, as well as a lot of hardships with money and security, like housing security and stuff like that growing up. So he has a lot of trauma, but I think his relationship to sexuality and religion could explain why he's behaving the way he does now. Basically, he gives me who just figured out that he can all the consensual that he wants and doesn't want to be tied down now. I wish he would just say that. And what we'll see throughout the show, that is definitely seems to be his driver. Like, he's so excited to have some sex and to get a very physical, flirtatious connection with people in general. All of the women, especially in the dating process. He's also been married before. Got married very young. Again, religious upbringing, so they didn't have sex before marriage. And then his ex-wife cheated on him and they got divorced. And then he's dated people afterwards, but it seems like they've been in a relationship for a few years now and she's really trying to see where things are going because she doesn't want to waste any more time. I understand that. And I also understand him wanting to be a hoe. It seems like he wants to be a hoe. He's in his whole horizon, his whole time. And I really wish that he would just say that and be honest, but instead he's a messy bitch on this show. But alas, here we go. Next up is Nick and Sandy. Stop. Break up, please. Honestly, everybody break up on the show, but especially y'all break up. They just scream toxic, bad. Don't do it. He issued the ultimatum, and I'm starting to notice a pattern of men who issue ultimatums on this show tend to do it for different reasons than why women do. I've noticed that women tend to issue ultimatums for clarity, for an explanation of if we're going to something more concrete, something more committed. I still think it's a waste of time because you would know. If y'all been dating for that long and he ain't said shit about seeing a future with you, like wife and kids, and like when he wants to do that, then he probably doesn't want to. And if he only brings it up in the context of your pushing, then he probably doesn't want to. But okay. But when men do it, I find that they do it more like a leg pissing thing, like to claim ownership, and they're trying to show themselves as more desirable than maybe their female partner is aware of. Like, I can get other bitches, so you should just be with me. Or like trying to make them, the women in the relationship, slow down and stop whatever cool thing they're doing just because they feel insecure about that. Feel insecure that they have women who are striving for things and wanting a lot of things, and instead of wanting to build with that person, I do get the sense that they do it as an ownership claim more so than clarity. That's just the vibe I get. I just noticed a pattern of how the men that issue ultimatums ultimatums kind of talk about their female partners. A lot of times they speak in this way as if they're fleeting. They have too much going on for them and they're flying away. Or there's other things that they want outside of their relationship with him, and that may be true. And instead of just accepting that for what it is, they want to clutch closer. And I definitely get that sense from him. He's a few years older than Sandy. I think like 10-ish years older than Sandy. He's in his late 30s. She's in her late 20s. He's an artist, which he feels the need to tell us every 3 seconds. And he kind of uses it as an excuse for his bad behavior. He calls himself an artist and weird and like unconventional and nobody understands me. And he kind of says that one of the issues with their relationship is that she's still young and wants to go out and have fun. And for some reason, I guess he thinks that getting engaged and married will make her not want to do those things. Again, right? It's this like chilling down of whatever she wants to do. If you want a bitch that stay home and wants to build a family and yada, 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 go find that bitch. But they don't want to do that. They want to find somebody and tame them and clip the wings of that person. Like, she don't want to do that. And she seems to have a lot of apprehension of settling down with him because he's unstable. Like, I don't think he's well mentally. Because as we'll see as the show goes on, he does not take the switch well, even though he brought her there. And it just feels very messy and emotionally draining and toxic and just ew. Like very codependent to some degree as well. Just like, ugh. Let it go. Break up. Shouldn't even be doing this shit. Just should have broke up already. Anyway, Mariah and Caleb. It seems as though whenever we have these shows, there's going to be one couple at least that's pretty boring. And that, if you're going to be on one of these shows, that's the couple you want to be. Okay? That means they ain't got shit to show you. You probably having a good time, relatively cool at any point of this. And that's Mariah and Caleb. Sure, they have like arguments throughout the show, but they have some of the most uninteresting to watch arguments that you could possibly see on reality TV. It feels like, generally speaking, more healthy ways of arguing, because there are such things as like constructive ways to argue. Certainly there's points where they're not getting each other's point, but that's also very normal in relationships. It's not nearly as like Nick and Sandy. They should not be together. Whereas they seem nice, both seem very reserved, a bit shy and self-critical. She's a bit clingy and she seems to have had a very hard upbringing, so that kind of explains a bit of her clinginess, whereas he seems to have a lot of issues with feeling criticized, which again, in the grand scheme of like issues that people have in this show, pretty low. Pretty low. Are they perfect? Of course not, because nobody's perfect, but I feel like if you're gonna want to be a couple in this season at least, this is the most boring couple. Try to be them. Oh, and Mariah issued that ultimatum. Vanessa and Dave. Dave sucks and Vanessa is annoying. She issued the ultimatum because he seems to be stalling, and to me that means he don't want to marry you. Well, I personally don't understand why we would want the story of us getting to a wedding day to be I had to beat him over a head with a cast iron pan to make him agree to marry. I don't get a whole lot of screen time, and we'll explain why in a second, but he just seems kind of shitty in general. So yeah, fuck him. Scotty and Aria. Oh, dark. He's another one I hated from the jump. Scotty. Couldn't stand him. So I didn't like Scotty, didn't like Dave, didn't like Nick, didn't like JR, and Caleb, nothing him. Just absolutely no emotion. I couldn't stand Scotty though, because he argues, as we're talking about Caleb and Mariah arguing generally in a better, more constructive way. Scotty sucks. He cannot take any form of, Scotty's one of them have to have the last word and can't say sorry, can't admit that he did something wrong, can't acknowledge that he hurt someone's feelings, and he's the that decided to issue the ultimatum. So he's bringing Aria onto the show. Now they live long distance, so they don't live together. Remember when I said that men that issue the ultimatum tend to do it to hold on to a woman? So apparently where she's living, her career is going well and she's like really building a foundation for herself. And she has a lot of trauma in relation to men in general, including her own father, who kind of let her down in some vague ways that they don't really go into specifics about. But it seems to have really shaped her anxieties and apprehensions around men. And I would say a like Scotty does not help that because Scotty sucks. Again, I do find that men issue the ultimatum to stop women from doing something, whether it be stop them from saying they don't want kids. I remember that being in the first season where a couple couldn't agree on getting engaged because the woman didn't want to have kids. So he thought, maybe I'll bring her on here and somebody can make her want to have kids. Or I can give her an ultimatum to make her want to have kids. Or I'm issuing an ultimatum so that you stop going out so much. I'm issuing an ultimatum so that you move over here to me. But it's not because they want to be married. You notice that? It's not that. And if they want to be married, it's in these vague like, yeah, my parents were married, so I want to do that. But there's nothing really about the person they're marrying, you know? A lot of the men that do this just don't see women as people. That's the vibe I get. It's like, I'm trying to trap the bird so that it doesn't go away. But anyway, yeah, that's definitely the vibe that I get about Scotty. And he's also, again, just very petulant and childish and manipulative. That's how I feel about him. I just really want her to leave him immediately. And I didn't understand why I felt that at first, but as we go along, I'm like, yep, listen to that first mind. And last but kind of least, Chanel and Micah. I don't really have a lot of thoughts about them. They are also boring. They seem to be really intense and cry a lot, but they're rather quiet. They don't have a whole lot of screen time, but yeah, she offered the ultimatum. So that's that. So we meet all the couples, and one of the new additions to this season is the giving of rings at the table. Did they always do that? Did I just miss that every season? But they give all the men rings, and I guess this is supposed to like really solidify at the end of this. If you choose to stay with your partner, you are proposing. And I was like, ugh, some might get proposed just for the ring. Is that how it goes? Ugh. But after the rings are given to the men, they are broken up. They are single now. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first season where they outright call it that. You are broken up and single.
You will all be single.
It is pretty clear that cut isn't very clean because there's definitely a lot of jealousy very quickly in the beginning in this like the dating week as we're deciding who we're going to do these trial marriages with new couples. I will say, not that I can really, no, I can blame him a little bit. Not because he shouldn't be able to flirt because he is single now. It's just how he flirts is very gross to me, and that is JR. He's aggressive in his flirtation. He's a toucher, a lot of boy laughs. I also hate his voice. He like talks in the back of his voice like this, and his lips go over his teeth in a way that is very frustrating to me.
Established for both Scorpios. Okay. Female Scorpios to me are like little different than male Scorpios.
Yeah, they're great.
I hear like the sex is crazy.
And he like sits like this, and he's like buff, and he's like, like what if we fucked, you know? That'd be crazy. Again, I take it that he's in his hoe phase right now, so I completely understand that. I am at this point in my life where if someone flirts with me like this, even if I weren't in a relationship, I would just be really grossed out. But yeah, this has nothing to do so much with him being fresh out of a relationship. It's more so just the way he flirts is very off-putting to me. But some people are into it. One of the people that seems to hit it off with him pretty quickly is Sandy, who is Nick's original partner, the ones that they were fighting each other. They basically chalk it up to them both being Scorpios. Horse. No, just touchy and intense, and I get that. And it was kind of nice to, I guess, have a similar type of energy with each other in that way. Meanwhile, Nick and Vanessa seem to build a connection very quickly. Both of them paint each other and themselves as weird and quirky. Ugh. That refer to themselves unironically as quirky. The worst people. Literally awful people. Scotty and Zaina make a connection. He's one of the men that issued the ultimatum, and that is very appealing to Zaina because she issued the ultimatum, and she seems like shocked that there is a concept of a person, a man who, quote, knows what he wants and is going to get it and like wants to be married. And I guess that's a very foreign concept to her. I don't know if anyone's out there like man, why does no one want to get married? There are people that want to get married. My first concern though is that is her focus, that he wants to get married. And again, I've kind of talked about one of my hangups with men that issue ultimatums in the show. She'll figure that out. They don't tend to be great people. They don't tend to be doing it like, I'm a patient guy who loves you and is trying to give you space to decide. You know, I just need clarity. Again, the same reason that women tend to do this. It's just like, stop being a person, stop being autonomous, and be my wife. Why you playing, bitch? Like, calm down. Woosa. Okay. They end up having a nosy ass drinking game at date week where they basically just get messy. One of the messy things that happens is that Arya admits in a game, like a drinking game, that the person she had the least connection with was Dave. And that kind of hurts Dave because he thought that was the strongest connection he had had.
I actually thought we had some really good chemistry. I thought I was pretty good at reading people.
Rip. And this is why you don't go on shows like this. I would hate to have such a public L. Take your L's in silence. Take your L's in private. Oh my God. Being that he's not really hitting it off with Arya, who was the only person that he seemed interested in, he kind of gets something going with Chanel. But honestly, he doesn't really seem interested in the process. He's not really connecting with any of the people there. But we keep doing it. Again, Sandy and JR really hit it off very quickly. They just want to there's a lot of like touching, and he's like, oh, I've never been with a white girl type energy, and something about they'd have cute biracial babies and also Zaina and Scotty are hitting it off, being quite touchy as well, holding hands in particular, which Arya sees, and this seems to really upset her. We'll find out later that part of why this is so like triggering, I guess, is that one of the issues in Scotty and Arya's relationship, their original couples, is because Arya isn't physical. She doesn't like to touch. She's not a physical touch person. It doesn't come to her naturally at all. And he wants that type of love from her, like non-sexual physical touch. And apparently it's something that they struggle with a lot in their relationship. So when she sees Scotty the first day essentially holding hands and being very touchy with another woman, it's very hard for her to see, to such a degree that she like goes up to him while him and what did I call her? Zarya? Zaina goes up to Zaina and Scotty while they're talking, and she's like, can I talk to him? Like disrupts them in the middle of it. She's very upset. She's like, oh, you're gonna hold her hand in front of me? Do you understand how disrespectful that is? Like, are you concerned at all about how I feel? And as much as I don't like Scotty, and I already knew I didn't like him already at this point, again, the thing that I keep going back to is, do y'all know what the show is? Because he says, yes, that's what the show is. We're on the ultimatum. Again, I don't understand how we're on season 3. You still don't understand what the show is, and that blows me. If you think you're too jealous of a person to see your now ex person holding another person, kissing another person, you might find out along the way that they don't somebody else. Like, I think it's only fair to assume that your partner is gonna the other person. It'd be nice if they don't, but if y'all are single, as much as y'all say you are, be single. I would go suck a just to prove a point. Because you can't tell me what to do. We broken up. And things get quite heated after that, but it doesn't seem to really resolve on screen. So, but the dating continues. Again, Nick and Vanessa are really connecting. They're referring to each other as onions, as in a Shrek reference. They have layers. And they're like, oh my God, we're so quirky. One little thing she brings up is that she did a bodybuilding competition the year before, which is like, good on you, girl. That's and apparently Dave didn't like it or approve of it. So she agreed to stop. The does that mean? Because my knee jerk is to think that he's like, I hate it because you're getting muscular and too masculine and you're my woman. So like, why are you so buff? Like, I don't want to, like, your job is to stay fuckable to me. Ew. But maybe it was a situation where like when she's always training, we don't ever keep Oreos in the house, and that's annoying. Like, but something tells me it ain't about like keeping snacks in the house and shit. I think it's probably the other thing. The misogynistic thing. Also, apparently he has an issue with her farting around him.
Dave actually gets really grossed out when I fart in front of him.
That's silly.
Which I consider not even mentioning, but I just have to mention it because I feel very powerfully about this. You should be farting near your partner. If you cannot fart near your partner, do you really know your partner? Also, I don't know about you. I have a friend of mine who said they have never farted in front of a significant other, and I'm like, that sounds stressful as I will not be caged in. I will not be restrained to freedom. Caleb and Arya are getting closer. They just seem very similar. Originally, Arya says that her connection with him is purely platonic, but I think she's just liking this different type of personality that she's never really dated before. My theory is that she's dated a lot of dumbass hotheads like Scotty, and so she doesn't know that a man can be chill. Like, I don't know. But yeah, more dating week. Vanessa, honestly, there was a moment there that I felt like Vanessa was trying to Chanel, and that would have been a fun twist. Wouldn't have saw that coming. I think that would have spiced these up a little bit because I kind of know where this is going. gonna start yelling because they forgot what the show is, and then terrible people will get engaged and probably break up after the engagement and but for her to steal your bitch, that sounds funny. But Vanessa ends up going to Nick because he seems to have been kind of avoiding her throughout the night, and he says the reason why is because he's kind of shocked and overwhelmed by how much he feels for her so quickly, which is cute, I guess. He's like, it's kind of daunting how much I like you. And she's cool with it. She seems to reciprocate that feeling. And you compare that to her original partner, Dave, who is like not really hitting it off with anyone. At best, Chanel, but even that is kind of awkward. JR is choosing between Aria and Sandy. And I already knew who was going to go with Sandy because he want to fuck her. On screen, we don't really see them build a deeper connection beyond physical. They swear up and down throughout the entire season that they had something deeper, but we don't see it. Then we compare that with Arya, who he seems to have pretty deep conversations with. But I was like, no, he not gonna pick her. He wanna fuck her and he ain't never fucked a white girl. That's how I read it, at least. And he also kisses her, if I'm not mistaken, before they've even chosen couples, which I think is a new record. Has that happened before? I don't think so. He quick. He on a mission. Anyway, it's time to choose your new partner. And the new partners are Scotty and Zaina, Nick and Vanessa. Oh, again, Mariah and Micah, Chanel and Dave, Aria and Caleb, and JR and Sandy. So we break off into our new couples, and it was pretty quick that Nick was crashing out. He was crashing out hard almost immediately. I think there's a lot of reasons why. I think just baseline, he's jealous. I think he would have been jealous of anyone, but I think it makes it particularly bad that she chose JR for a lot of reasons. I think he's having a black cucked nightmare lived out before his eyes, just sitting there thinking like, oh my God, the woman I loved, who I brought on here to make jealous, I guess, is getting BBC'd, is getting pounded by a black bull. All jokes aside, he's very, like, at least superficially, very stereotypically masculine. He's black, he's buff, he looks tall, you know, he's conventionally attractive in a lot of ways. And on top of that, he seems particularly eager to he wants to fuck somebody. He talks about it a lot. He want to fuck somebody. But again, it's all fun and games, Nick, when you thought, oh, I can show her me with another person and I could possibly fall in love, which is partially why I question that whole like, oh, I feel more feelings for you, Vanessa, than I thought I would. Because I think he was just saying that to make her jealous, make Sandy jealous. I don't know, but I have thoughts. With that said, I think JR and Sandy are pretty aware immediately that everyone thinks that they just have a physical connection, but they swear, again, up and down, that they have more than that. They don't know our connection off camera. Whatever. Okay. But yeah, I mean, if I were Nick, I would have brought her here assuming she's gonna fuck somebody. Because we're single. She can do whatever the she wants, and vice versa. I don't understand, because again, he starts crashing out bad when the reality of what he's done, his own actions have brought him here. Again, he issued the ultimatum and he starts to crash out, and it's immediate, and it gets worse and worse as the days progress. I haven't really talked much about Sandy like by herself and not just like as a reaction to other people like JR or Nick, because a lot of her on-screen time is reacting to Nick in particular. I think she's nice, I guess. She do say some shit that's very off-putting to me. Something about weird voodoo shit. Honestly, I think she maybe well-intended, but a little dumb. That's the vibe I get, especially because this is also the first black man I believe that she's ever dated. She talks about saging the room and swearing that it's not any, quote, weird voodoo shit. You think, okay, first of all, I find it weird that you poop. No, I don't. But it's funny how people poo-poo voodoo as a spiritual practice. Like, oh, that's just weird voodoo, blah, blah, blah. But are saging the room, bitch? Like that. Is that not, or is it because it's associated with blackness? Of course, yeah, whatever. Also, she says some weird, dumb shit about surprised that his full name, JR's full name, is John, spelled Jon and not Jawn, because he's from Philly and a Philly John. Bitch, shut up. Oh my God. But overall, I guess she's fine. She's certainly the person that gets a lot of screen time, and I wish she wouldn't. Again, I guess she's nice overall, but just kind of dumb. Same with Chanel, but she's not on the camera as much. She said something that was, I don't know if it was anti-Semitic so much as it was, no, it was a little anti-Semitic. Just felt weird.
Have you ever dated a Jewish guy?
I have not. He would be my first Jew.
Okay, so by day 2 of the new couples, Nick ends up running into Sandy and she tells him about the kisses. Kiss? or kisses at this point. They've kissed at least once. And that seems to send him into a downward spiral. But he starts flipping out. Vanessa's trying to be there for him, but he seems to spiral really, really quickly and kind of shuts her out. Like, go over there, bitch. I don't want anything. We don't really see a lot of the ways that he treats her, but as we'll see, it must have been pretty bad. It must have been pretty mean and ugly because, spoiler, they're not gonna last long. But yes, he's flipping out. Apparently he's reaching out to Sandy, calling her, texting her, which I don't know if that's against the rules of the show, but certainly against the point of it. Because if you can talk to her every 3 seconds, then we're not broken. Shut the fuck up. Let me be in my trial marriage. Stay over there and you can do your thing. And I'm over here with my new boo and we gonna snuggle and watch TV and only have the good parts of a relationship because it's only gonna be for 3 weeks. And then I gotta come to the person that I've been dating for several years and remember that you suck a little bit. But before that can even become a really big issue, like a thief in the night, Dave, Vanessa, and Micah and Chanel leave. Just pack up. They don't talk to production. Well, I say production. They don't talk to production. They don't do a why are we leaving on camera. They don't do shit. They leave in the middle of the night. The only people that catch them is like the infrared things at the end of the night. And they just gone. And I'm like, damn, okay. Well, I guess if they like, this ain't worth it, then go home. I don't blame them. But because of them leaving early, those two couples, now Nick and Mariah are alone. They no longer have partners. Now, I was under the impression that they would just put them together, but they don't. They actually make Nick live alone and Mariah live alone, and they'll randomly here and there allow them to have like activities together, I guess, to have someone to talk to who's in a similar position, but they just go it alone while their partner has a trial marriage. So for Mariah, I felt like that's actually not too bad. As I understand from the conversation we've seen on camera, she is a bit clingy, a bit needy, and maybe like being by herself would actually be quite good for her, allow her to really like find herself a little bit. But for Nick, he was spiraling already. So as you can imagine, now not only is his girlfriend getting blacked in the apartment ahead of like on top of him, when she gets BBC'd through the mattress, you'll see like her palm prints come through the ceiling. Not only that, like his biggest fear being cucked by his girlfriend and a big black man on the apartment on top of him. But also now he doesn't even have the chance to connect with somebody else because his roomie went home, or his trial marriage partner went home. So again, he wasn't doing great anyway. And now he's gonna spiral, bitch. He is going to typhoon, bitch. Ugh. It would start with him again breaking like a no contact that I don't know if that's a rule in the marriages, but apparently he starts bombarding her with phone calls, text messages, honestly kind of harassing her while she's in her trial marriage. And again, I don't think that there's any like written down rules that you can't do this, especially because they want drama for television, but it does really with your ability to have this trial marriage mean anything if you're constantly sticking your nose into it. Like, why are we even doing this? He seems to be spiraling, and we like catch up on him in particular because he's doing various things to like deal with these very intense feelings. He's painting, he's going to get tattoos that he got accidentally with the wrong words on it. He starts drinking too much, and this is something that he kind of talks about later. But yeah, he's taking it bad. He's spinning. But for the most part, outside of Nick, everybody else seems to be doing pretty well in their trial marriages, and Mariah seems to be doing okay by herself, at least what we see. Sandy and JR touch on him and his insecurities since his ex-wife cheated on him, and he says something dumb as along the lines of like, in regards to relationships and social media, JR is like, the woman, the female, should post her partner, but a man shouldn't be obligated to.
Like the female could post, but the male shouldn't be obligated to.
That's like the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Which is fucking dumb. And luckily Sandy says that outright. Like I said, insecure bitch. I truly don't understand the effect, I guess, of social media on relationships. Honestly, if I feel like I can't trust you online, I can't trust you anywhere. So why are we doing that? Like, and if I found out I can't trust you online, then I can't trust you anywhere. So break up. I struggle really hard to give a I do. I think his dumbass opinion is based off of, again, that his ex-wife cheated on him. Honestly, if I had to bet dollars to donuts, I would think that he also cheated on her because he gives cheater energy, but maybe he didn't get caught, so he can use it as like, oh my God, I was cheating. That's my I don't know. But again, if I was a I'm not. But if I was a betting bitch. Arya and Caleb are getting closer, which is something that Arya didn't really expect because she knew that she liked him platonically, which is why they chose each other. But she's starting to feel something a little deeper than that, which she does articulate to Scotty. And I will give Scotty and Arya this is their original couple, Scotty and Arya, that they do seem to be pretty open with each other about how they feel about their trial marriage partner. She articulates to him like, hey, it started off platonic, but I am starting to feel whatever emotions. And they seem to, it probably hurts, but at this point they're handling that better. And I guess because she doesn't have to see him, seeing him hold hands with another girl was probably not great, but she can just accept it for what it is. It's like she's trying to figure out and hone in on what she likes about her new trial partner and qualities she would like Scotty to have that he doesn't have, and she can see maybe in other people. This comes up, I don't even remember when it comes up, but it does seem to be that she wants Scotty to have more qualities like Caleb. And my thing is, why don't you pick men that have those qualities? It really is so much simpler. Like, I do understand, like, if you have high standards, you have fewer people you date, usually. Or maybe you have several situations where you've dropped those standards and realized that was a terrible idea. You have never been better by dropping your standards, trust me. As a bitch who's done it before and is not doing it again. Oh, it was a bad time. Anyway, but yeah, just Scotty isn't your guy. He's just not that guy. So JR ends up meeting Sandy's mother and I think some of her friends and whatnot. And Nick finds out about it, I assume because he's bombarding her with text messages and she probably is responding. And that seems to make him go even more into a dark hole, into his black nightmare where she's getting dug out by a bald dude wearing some Timberlands and nothing else. Man, I would watch a lot more cuckoldry if it weren't often racist. It's the bisexual cuckoldry one that gets... Anyway, y'all need to know my business. I saw Baby Girl, by the way. I get it. I know not everybody gonna get it, but I get it. Anyway, yeah, Nick is spiraling to the extent that he goes to their apartment. Again, what did you think the show was? Oh my God. And JR comes to the door and he's like, what the f*** are you doing here? Which he has every right to say, because that's what I would say. Especially again, because you brought her on here. With that said, JR is still a weirdo. He goes into like the post interview and he's obviously like pretty heated. And he's like, I don't appreciate him. I can't do it anymore. I did it in the beginning. Well, now I can't. I don't appreciate him coming over here talking to my wife. This situation is so bad that Sandy finally blocks him. And then we see him in his room and he's wailing. Not just crying, he's sobbing. I did laugh. I had a lot of mixed emotions. Let me explain. Don't look at me like that way. Oh my God. I would like to explain myself to the jury. Okay, look, check it. I understand. I have empathy for the pain that this man is feeling. I do. I can understand you feeling real bad right now, real insecure, feel like you losing something, yada yada yada. Sure, but I laughed because I do find it funny when people get what they ask for. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but maybe I need to hone in more on, there's a certain type of hubris, narcissism that makes a person go, I'm gonna bring my partner on here, make them see me with someone else, but I couldn't imagine them feeling anything for anybody else, and I'm so sure of that I'm gonna kick her into a relationship with a different person, open to whoever that person could be. And then when you see that, oh my God, she does have that capacity because she's a person. And also you weren't confused about you possibly having that capacity either. You think it's impossible for them to connect with anyone other than you to such an extent you're willing to bet your relationship on it and shove her into a relationship with literally any other man, a man that she would presumably get along with. But you believe that her feelings and her entire worldview is shaped entirely by her relationship with you. You don't even think she has that capacity while knowing that you do, right? So the fact that that person is forced into the reality that no, she could very well be that man above your head right now, and now you want to it was funny. I'm sorry. My condolences. My condolences to your puppy.
That was foul. My bad. Hey man, condolences to your puppy.
And again, not too long ago, he was saying, oh, I have so many feelings for you, Vanessa. So yeah, you had the capacity. But nah, it's a problem. Back to Scotty and Zaina. And she's finally starting to get a hint of this vibe that I got from him pretty early, which is this sort of petulance that he has. Was he the youngest boy? Is he the baby boy? Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the vibe I get. You know, maybe not, but I think so. But he asked her if she would like to do 2 of his date ideas, both of which she's not interested in, and very reasonably so. One of them was cryotherapy, where you like get in a dome or some shit and get real cold for some reason. I don't know. And then the other one is going into a hot air balloon and she's afraid of heights. 2 very reasonable things to not want to do, in my opinion, personally. But he seems to take this as rejection, and he seems to be very sensitive to rejection a lot. Instead of like sitting with that emotion or vocalizing that in a way that isn't antagonistic, he tends to get very petulant and kind of say little sly jabs at Zaina and at anyone. Honestly, he does this when they do the crossover. He does this to Arya. This is how he fights. He says something along the lines of like, okay, then what does 32-year-old fun look like?
What does 32-year-old fun look like?
Okay, let's not put an age with fun.
Talking about Zaina's age. And if I recall correctly, he's not that much younger than her. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. How old was he? Hold on, let me double check that. That 30! What the fuck? What a fucking weirdo! I thought maybe he was like 27. That's 2 years younger than her. What does 32-year-old fun look like? Oh my God. Anyway, then he starts to get upset that she ate a meal without him. Like she ate separate from him. And he seems to like get very offended by that. Like,
I figured you ate without me.
You figured wrong.
and he strikes me as the type of dude that you'd have to feel like you're on pins and needles at every moment and like subject to his emotions. And no. Cause he gonna blow up because he feels a particular emotion and he's not gonna take ownership of it or acknowledge that it's his emotion to work through. Can't do it. No. Hell to the you. But now that the couples have been together for a little while, they have to do the girls and guys night where everyone gets together and awkwardly talk about how much they love their trial partner and how much they're learning from them, and also try to get some tea, honestly, from the other people. But right beforehand, Arya says that she wants to be upfront with Mariah and tell her that she no longer feels just platonic feelings for Caleb. And I get that. She's like, originally she was under the impression that I had no romantic feelings towards you at all. And if that has changed, I don't want to like blindside her and act as if like everything's still the same as it was when it's not. And he dissuades her from doing that and saying, I don't think you really need to do that. And this was kind of strange. I haven't really talked about it a whole lot, but the times that I've seen Arya and Caleb on camera, they do seem beyond platonic. They don't kiss or anything, but they definitely hold hands and connect physically, which is something that she's not used to, right? That's not something that comes naturally to her. So she's kind of trying to work through that with him. There's hugging, there's intimate conversation, there's laughs, there's longing stares. There's something beyond platonic, at least as I was reading it. But he says, no, we're just friends. And I was starting to think like, I guess that could be true because again, this is the ultimatum. Production is going to make them go a little bit more like romantic for the drama of it all. So maybe he really does just feel platonically towards her. It did have me squinting my eyes though, because I was like, I don't think that's necessarily true. But if it is true that he doesn't feel romantically towards her and he just sees her as a friend, it is kind of rocking a boat if she goes and tells Mariah. I don't know. I feel like you should anyway. And Mariah brought you on this show, so it's her job to deal with the emotions of that. But honestly, I think he's just not being truthful. I think he does have feelings for her, but he's like, I don't want to admit that to Mariah or maybe even to myself. So speaking of Mariah, there have been moments when, again, they have her and Nick meet up as like friendly activities together, and she's apparently gotten to know him a bit better. And so at girl night, she's just pretty upfront and she's like, I'm sorry to say this, but I don't think Nick is in the place to be a good husband to anybody. Really. And honestly, yeah, that whole spiral shit, like all jokes aside, that was a particular display of dysregulation from a thing that you did. And combining that with like his original partner also left because of something mood wise. He kind of talks about himself like he's a storm, you know, and I just have all these emotions and I'm just very intense. And I'm like, you sound like a motherfucker that should be going to therapy, not trying to get married. Why do y'all think those are the same thing? Speaking of Nick, he goes goes to guys' night and he takes the opportunity to immediately go up to JR and apologize for coming up to their room. JR accepts it, but he definitely does, you know, say some jabs at him throughout the night. I take it that he just doesn't think of his apology as sincere because, again, he was blowing up Sandy's phone. I don't know, maybe he went around being blocked to contact her in other ways. But JR does end up saying something along the lines of like, are you doing it because it's me? Like, are you reacting this way because she is with me? And Nick lies. He lies because he's explicitly said to other people, why him? Like, I don't trust him, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no. What are you talking about? Hey. Yes. Okay, Zaina and Sandy talk. Again, Zaina is JR's original partner. I didn't like the vibe of this. Sandy was basically insinuating that, you know, they're just friends. They're not hooking up. It's not like that. And she's just trying to train him how to be a good husband for you. I'm like, bitch, okay, all right. We don't have eyes, I guess, or ears, I guess. Or again, another situation where you're trying to make yourself feel that way, bitch, but that ain't what we seen. And I wish you would just keep this to yourself instead of coming to her and lying to her ass. But anyway, it's just insulting because we've seen y'all kiss at least, I think at this point, twice. And just a slew of sexual jokes that she seems like open to. You know what I mean? So I'm like, girl, I'd rather you just be honest. Like, I do feel something for him beyond platonic, and it is what it is. I think that would be a lot more respectable to do. Back with the men, they ask if Caleb has caught feelings for Arya, specifically Scotty, and Caleb is like, no, like, I'm not interested in her in that way. We're just friends. I'm like, But with that said, Scotty takes that kind of weird. He seems to be pretty hot about it, almost offended. He ends up saying something along the lines of like, ain't no straight man ever been around Arya and just wanted to be friends.
If I'm being real, like, I do not feel like there's been any heterosexual male that has met Arya and only wants to be Arya's friend. And I need that to be explicitly clear.
Okay. Yikes. The fact that you can't even fathom that a straight man would want to just be friends with anybody is weird. That's a weird thing to say. You're weird for that. There are such things as platonic relationships between men and women. Y'all are weird for that. But anyway, his reaction to this is very strange to me. It felt like he was like offended. I think if I read it the most charitably, favorably, maybe he's just offended that Caleb is lying to his face. He thinks he's lying. And I think that's part of it. And the fact that you will lie to my face like that is something that is an offense to me. There's a heat there that I don't quite understand. It kind of reads to me, how do I explain it? Like an ownership thing and somebody dissing the thing you own. Did anybody else feel that? Was that just me? It didn't come off like a, I don't believe him by itself, right? It came off of like, this my bitch. Everybody want my bitch. What you mean you don't want my bitch? She's my bitch. That's the vibe. That's the vibe I was getting. And I'm like, what you trying to say about me because you don't want my bitch? Right? Because he's also a painfully insecure man as well. At this point, the only person that I would say is kind of just meh is Caleb. And there's also opportunity to be like, huh, with Caleb. But for the most part, he's like, whatever, like a non-person almost. But everybody else is like so loudly insecure. So it feels like it falls in line with that thing of just like, what do you mean you dissing my fit? This is my fit. Everybody loves this fit. Ain't nobody looked at this and was like, oh, you spent your money poorly. You did. Am I crazy? I could be a cynic. Okay. But Caleb swears up and down. He's like, you don't have to worry about me in that way. I don't see her in that way. We're platonic. On the other side of that, Arya talks to Mariah about Arya's attractions to Caleb. And she does admit to Mariah that she is feeling something more than just friendship. At this point, she's starting to feel all these emotional connections. She's starting to see a lot of things in him that she wished existed in her relationship with Scotty. She does communicate something along the lines from Caleb that essentially Maria can be a bit quote unquote overly communicative, which I read as clingy, and maybe he doesn't feel trusted based off of the amount of contact and communication that she seems to need. But Mariah's like, I don't see it as overly communicative. I just see it as healthy communication. And yeah, you see what I mean? Their arguments are very normal. So like when she has conversations with him, she's like, I want us to be on the same page. Pretty boring argument. I don't know. And this night ends, at least editing wise, pretty tense with the men in particular. It's a little confusing, but essentially it ends with some tension between JR and Scotty, where JR insinuates that he heard through the grapevine that Scotty had been saying that JR is here for a hall pass. Mouthful. Like he's just here to somebody. This causes a bit of a verbal fight, altercation of sorts between Scotty and JR, because Scotty is like, who told you that? And he won't say. And he's like, who told you that? Did Zaina tell you that? Who said that? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you who said it to me, but did you say that? And he's like, no, I did not say that. Blah, 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 blah. Now, I think this is a stupid argument because I don't understand why JR isn't honest with himself. Yes, you did. You came here for a hall pass, but apparently Scotty's upset that somebody is going around saying that he's trying to start shit with JR. Basically, this whole back and forth gets a lot more heated than necessary because Scotty in particular is a hothead, and also because JR probably said that shit. So this is really dumb. But it ends with Scotty being very hung up on like, who said that? Who said that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? But men's night ends with Nick asking JR if he had sex with Sandy. And I love that they edit it in a way that he just doesn't answer on screen. I assume he said no because Nick is too rational throughout the rest of this footage, but it's just funny that they edited it like that. That's very funny. So after girls and guys night, we do the debriefing, and immediately Scotty is being an asshole to Zaina because I guess after his weirdly heated altercation of sorts with JR happened, he assumed that JR got that information from Zaina. And Zaina is like, what are you talking about? I just came in, you giving me all this heat. I don't know what you're talking about. First of all, I didn't talk to JR about that. I ain't talked to him at all, really, since we started this experience. And whatever issues you have with JR should have stayed with JR. But he comes in hot. And then when she says, you're coming at me hot, he's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And I hate that. I hate that shit. People with no self-awareness. Bitch, do you hear yourself? He starts off the conversation, puts both hands on the counter, this like body language, like he's trying to calm himself down, and he's just staring at her. And then he's like, have I ever said anything rude about JR to you? And she's like, not explicitly, but yeah. He starts getting hot, like hot-headed. And she's like, hey, again, whatever problems you have, you should have handled that at guys' night. You should talk to JR about it. Why are you coming back home to me when I'm telling you I did not talk to him about it? And then when she is like, calm that shit down, he's like, why are you raising your voice? She's like, because you're yelling. I'm not yelling. Luckily, she has the patience, but if this is how he fights, luckily she's able to be like, hey, again, if that's a problem you have with him, you can't bring the world into our house and I ain't do nothing to you. So calm that shit down. Good on her. Very mature to be able to do that instead of just like going into the cyclone of argument. She's like, you need to be mindful of how your energy affects other people. Because he does have this like, my emotions are the only emotions that exist and the only ones that matter type viewpoint. He's very immature, incredibly immature. Jesus. They're able to calm down and get to a resolution, which is a good sign, I guess. But personally, if every time I have a disagreement with you, this is how we argue, hell no. Hell no, I ain't doing it. I'm not doing it. That shit's annoying because it shows fundamentally you're focused on winning an argument and beating an opponent and not reaching a resolution. I'm not your opponent, and that think of you as an opponent, you're already on bad ground, baby. Y'all are partners. He came in ready to box that. Cause like you have problems with outside. I am not your emotional punching bag because you can't figure out how you gonna deal with that over there. Deal with it. One part of this conflict was actually very, very funny and really led into the insecure reading I had of him in particular, because Zaina's trying to understand where all this heat is coming from. She was like, were you intimidated? Like seemed like she was trying to figure out where is this emotion and all this heat coming from, because he's like, I don't care how much you bench. I don't care how much you eat. I don't care how much muscle you have. And I'm like,
how many weights you lift, how big you are, how much you eat per day. I don't play that shit.
Were you intimidated?
Hell no. You think I'm intimidated by JR?
No, I'm just...
It sounds like you're here a little bit. Sounds like it's on your mind, quite frankly. And she's like, are you intimidated by him? And that seems to strike a nerve. And he's like, hell no! Intimidated? Fuck, I look like intimidated. Sounds like an intimidated ass. And like, again, if you weren't intimidated, you would have just said no and moved on. And he comes back to intimidated. Intimidated? I ain't intimidated. You sure? You were absolutely short. Okay. But yeah, eventually she is able to calm him down and they're able to get on the same page. But baby, I refuse to argue like this. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. It's us against a problem, not you against me, bitch. If you don't have the maturity to fundamentally understand that, we're not going to be able to argue. We're not going to be able to talk. We're not going to be able to do things because you're thinking about yourself. Stop being a child. Stop being a bitch. You're only 30 and she's 32, bitch. What the f? What do you mean? What is 32-year-old fun, ho? Why am I dancing? They do have Nick and Mariah touch base after Girls and Guys Night, in which he kind of talks about how he struggled to deal with his emotions and keep them in check in past relationships. Basically, he would get comfortable and he basically stops giving a fuck about his mental health and how that affects other people. I think one thing that pops out in this conversation is he has been incredibly emotionally volatile in past relationships as well. Like, he would quote unquote be on his best behavior, and then once he gets comfortable, I understood it is that he started to treat them like emotional pincushions, essentially, like the place where he can bounce his energy off of but not actually be with, which means this is a pattern, which means that it will not be served or fixed by marriage. All it is his attempt to gain stability, or what he thinks of as stability and control. But y'all will just be in a legally binding relationship and miserable and have even more of the same issues that you had before. But okay. But he admits, he's like, I think they're falling for each other. And I will admit, there are moments that he does have some lucidity. He's able to say, like, they didn't do anything wrong by kissing because, again, we're broken up, but it still hurts. So he's almost there. Right? Maybe he's had some therapy, but more, perhaps. Maybe more than one therapist if you can afford it. Sometimes we got a lot to talk about. But like, it's getting closer and closer to the switchback, and Sandy's like, she starts like breaking down with JR, like, I don't want to move back with him. Like, I don't. And I'm like, damn, baby, if that's how you feel moving back in with the person that you're considering marrying, yikes. Please break up. Everybody, please, but especially y'all. Please break up. If you're dreading going home, you haven't seen your partner, theoretically, in like 3 weeks, and you're dreading seeing them. We're getting closer to the switchover, and right before that, Scotty is a bitch again. Basically, they randomly start fight. I don't even know how this fight starts, because they already seem kind of tense by the time the camera came in. But he basically accuses her in this very... like, there's this vibe where he's accusing Zaina of taking her phone into the bathroom in the middle of the night to talk to JR.
I don't really know anyone else that wakes up in the middle of the night at 1:30 and takes their phone with them to the bathroom, so...
What are you talking about?
She gets upset because, what? Now you tracking when I go take a shit? I can't take a shit with my phone. What if I'm playing mobile games, bitch? I can't take a shit and play... Midas Merge or whatever. If you're counting how many times I take a dump and play Love and Pies, bitch.
Like, what I'm doing, where I'm going. And second of all, I actually don't take my phone to the bathroom.
Super defensive. For what?
Also, it solidifies that he has a weird preoccupation, if not obsession, with JR.
You definitely use your phone a lot and text a lot.
So that means I am what?
Talk to JR.
Again, he has a lot of these attributes that are very traditionally masculine. He has, he's big and buff and tall and conventionally nice looking and very flirtatious and yada, yada, yada. There's something that JR unlocks in him that is very ugly. Maybe he was a loser growing up, and he still got some loser tendencies, But when she reacts in a reasonable way, then he like kind of acts like she's crazy for reacting that way.
Nobody's more upset with JR than JR. Nobody cares about what JR's doing except for people that are associated to JR.
And people who ask about them very often, like you. You obviously care.
Obsessed with JR is crazy. You really couldn't come up with a better deflection than that? Like,
he's like, wow, you're so defensive right now after I attacked your character and said you're a liar and said that you're reaching out to your ex. Like, what? Wow, calm down.
The same way that you think people come for your character, you're coming for my character with that.
I never said you did. All I was doing was asking you questions. Use your phone a lot and text a lot.
So that means I am what?
Talk to JR.
Also, again, saying all this shit like you are too old for all this drama you're doing right now.
Unnecessary drama. Like, I feel like you a little too old to be doing all that. 32,
immature.
You should low-key like hang up the drama jersey in the rafters.
Immature.
It's time.
Are you not too old for this shit? And she's very, has more patience than I would. I would have read him for filth, bitch. Read him down. Because there is nothing uglier than a man trying to talk down. Who the do you think you talking to? Bitch, who are you talking to? Like actually, like fundamentally, who the are you talking to? Absolutely wild. But I read him for filth. Why am I getting so heated? You a little too old for like, pretty obvious. Did you grow up a loser? Like, he's not even in the room when we're talking about him. You seem to have a hyperfixation on him. But he has no self-awareness of how ugly and childish and immature he comes off. If anything, he says that you're really showing your colors right now. Get bent. Go sit on a poker, bitch. I don't give a She has so much more patience. She is more mature, way more mature. Would have read him down, bitch. In the genesis of Scotty, he was born a bitch. Like, in the beginning was the word, and the word was Scotty is a bitch. Like, I don't know how she does it. Truly an icon, truly patient beyond measure. They do the changeover and they have another meeting. They give all the like beautiful speeches of the things that they've learned in their respective relationships, some of the issues they had in respective relationships. And in the process of doing that, it comes up about JR and Sandy's kiss, which apparently Zaina knew nothing about. So she was kind of taken aback by that. I will admit, it's a little weird to find out here. That's a little wild. But again, what do you think the show is? They could have done anything in 3 weeks. And though I don't like JR, he reacts the way I would have. I didn't know you brought me here to test me and test like whether or not I love you and whatnot. Like if I had all these restrictions on what I was able to do while we did it, then there was no point of coming. I wouldn't have come. And I agree with that. I do too. Because if you gonna tell me what I can and can't do when I'm in the other relationship, what the are we doing anyway? But it's clear she didn't expect him to go that far. And apparently Nick didn't expect Sandy to go anywhere because that's what he says explicitly. I didn't think she was going anywhere. Which again, why did you bring her here? You thought you were just gonna make her jealous and she would just look around like, somebody else thinks Nick is attractive and somebody wants him. Okay, but Nick in his more differentiated moments is again willing to say like, you didn't do anything wrong. It just hurts. And that's fair. And he does have these moments where he's a little bit more lucid, but he should not be getting married. He should be getting a very trained and specialized therapist. And if he has one already, maybe devote more to that relationship. Maybe go more. A lot of time, maybe even. All the time. A lot. So it's time to break up into the original partnerships. For those at home, that is Zaina and JR, Nick and Sandy, Caleb and Mariah, Scotty and Aria. Okay? Those are who are left. Right. So yeah, we're back with our original partnerships, and it's pretty clear immediately why you guys were having so many issues before. One thing that I noticed is that for some reason, people are trying to get married and they, quote, haven't gotten deep. What? I mean this so serious. One, what do y'all talk about? Let's start there. What do y'all talk about? 2, why are you trying to marry a person that you haven't gotten deep with? 3, why are you trying to marry a person that you feel like you can't get deep with and thinking that issuing them an ultimatum is a modality to do that? Because some of these people basically insinuate that they haven't even talked about marriage in any like concrete sense prior to this. What? I don't understand. Like, what the do y'all talk about? What do y'all have in common? What do you want to marry? Who are you marrying? Why? Because a lot of these people, a lot of these people talk about their motives in getting married to be like, I'm that age now and my eggs are drying up. Those are the reasons why. Not because they love their partner and really see them as a companion. Like they might like sprinkle that in, but it's definitely not the focus of why they're getting married. Because maybe if that were the case, they wouldn't be here, right? So Scotty acts the way he does. That Nick and Sandy get back together and he was like, I was f***ing broken without you. Please go heal alone. Mariah and Caleb talk about their experience and she seems to be looking for a bit more clarity on whether or not it was a platonic relationship between him and Aria. Because again, when she talked with Aria, she talks about all these qualities that he has and that she would like to see in a husband, and it sounds beyond platonic. And he's like, no, it's just compliments. Like she was looking for good qualities in me. And I think that's just not being completely honest. I was like, y'all hugged a lot. And again, they weren't kissing, but there was definitely a lot of physical affection and laughing and intimacy that, though not explicitly sexual, didn't feel friendly, you know? I think it was more of like wanting to say to himself, I didn't cross any boundaries, but I also just think it's being dishonest. You came onto this show explicitly to press some boundaries. Maybe we find out who we are when we're pushed to the edge, you know, or whatever type beat. But yeah, I just don't think he's being very honest to himself or anyone really, or to Maria. And she deserves him to be like upfront about that. Zaina and JR are struggling because he's a f***ing liar. Basically, not because he kissed Sandy, but it was a wild way to find out at the table. Like, oh shit, okay, I didn't know. I will give her that. That is wild to find out that way. But she seems like kind of disgusted by him. She tells him to go like, I don't know where your mouth has been type beat. She does seem immediately fixated on how physical did they get? Did you guys have sex? Was it making out? Like, what was it? And then when he tells her that it was just like 2 kisses, I think he admitted to. It was probably way more than that, but 2 kisses. She's like, well, I can't get mad at you. We were broken up. Me personally, again, I wouldn't be on the show because if I felt like if I had to bring my boyfriend on this show, that's a sign we should probably break up. We fundamentally want things that are different, right? But say I were to bring somebody on this show, I would not want to know what you did. I would say, do whatever. If it's fucking, I'd rather you not tell me. I mean, you're single. Do whatever you need to do. That is about your journey. I would not like to talk about any physical things that you did. That would just be me, my line, my boundary. But the fact that y'all want to know, like, did you eat a oh my God, why'd you eat a pussy? He was single. He can eat any pussy he wants to. That's consenting. Like, what do you mean? Like, what the But then they're like, I can't believe you've done this. Like, you know, we have to deal with the repercussions of this. And it's like, y'all are dumb. Anyway, but I think the most worrying part of this is that he too can't be particularly honest because she's like, do you currently have feelings for Sandy? Because I guess he had admitted to her that he was forming some romantic feelings for her. So at some point, but he kind of is like, no, it's over. We're broken up. Leave it alone type energy. And I'm like, I don't like that. I'd rather you be sincere. He also says something along the lines of like, am I leaving here with Sandy? Probably not.
Am I leaving here with her? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably. Ooh, girl, red flag. No. Throw that to the streets. There's alcohol in this a little bit. Mariah and Caleb end up having a lot of the same type of argument over and over again. Again, not particularly interesting for television, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's just like bickering, trying to get on the same page. Like, I'm not criticizing you. This is where I'm coming from, blah, blah, blah. That shit's boring. I guess it's healthier. There are some things that they say about themselves that is kind of like self-deprecating and not really great for their own self-esteem. She like talks down to herself like, I know it's so hard to love me. And it's like, no, bitch. My pep talk. Nah, bitch, you great. The fuck? Stop telling these that, thank you for lowering yourself to love me. No, bitch. You lovable, hoe. Same with that. Stop being assholes to yourself. Stop bullying yourself. Real shit. Go to therapy. Stop trying to get married. Nick and Sandy are back together, and for some reason, they're not having sex. Which I'm surprised doesn't concern him more. Like, not to say they have to have sex anyway, but I think because they seem to have had a lot, that they had like a very regular sex life prior to this, and then you stay with another man for 3 weeks that I already have suspicions that something's going on there, and now suddenly you don't want to have sex with me when I come back. Yeah, you know, it would give me a vibe like, why is that? Like, did you actually have sex and you're lying to me? But she chalks it up to like wanting to fully process the last 3 weeks, and I'm like, maybe my head is just different. I don't understand what those two things have to do with each other. But okay, she just doesn't want to have sex with him. Maybe she finds that she's not able to make clear decisions with Nick when sex is involved. I don't know. I noted it. So they bring all the original partners together and they meet each other now that they're in their second trial marriage. And people, of course, got to get messy. One of the messy things is that we find out that Nick's new tattoo is actually a tattoo that JR already had. Nick, again, got this tattoo on accident. He meant for it to say love conquers all or something in Latin, but it ended up being another saying that's cliche. Luck favors the brave or something like that. I don't know. And he swears up and down he got it on accident, but they're like, yeah, he probably did it because he's obsessed with JR too. And JR thinks he jokes about it like, no, he must have saw my tattoos and thought, yeah, he wanted to do this because I'm that. It's a joke, quote unquote, but I do get the sense that that's actually how he feels about it. But in the midst of conversation, this is when Nick finds out that there was a second kiss because apparently he didn't know. This seems to upset him all over again. And I'm like, we gotta count how many kisses there was? I assume they fucked. Why aren't y'all just pulling the Band-Aid off and just assume they fucked? He was like, when were you gonna tell me that? And she was like, I mean, I was gonna tell you after filming. And he was like, after we're engaged? And it's like, I I don't know. Just break up, please. Oh, dear God. I don't have any words left. My go-to phrases are, please break up, and what did you think the show was? And that seems to be my two answers for everything, especially this season. But oh my God, you two fundamentally are not equipped to be in relationships in general, let alone with each other. Especially Nick, but oh my God, yikes. Remember I said people are just now saying that they want to get deep. So Zaina and JR is a couple that says that, which again, why are y'all trying to get married and you've never gotten deep? Y'all could just stay casually dating. If deepness wasn't just something that is innately in your dynamic and something you want to harbor for your dynamic, y'all probably shouldn't be together. They end up chatting, and one of the things that come up in these like hard to have conversations is that JR says, sometimes I wonder if Zaina loves me more than I love her. It's something to consider. Doing it right in front of her was a bit wild.
Do I love her as much as she loves me? Because I'm not there.
To me, I read it as, you don't love me as much as I love you, and essentially you're just doing this to placate me. Luckily, she does stand up for herself a bit. She's like, hey, I don't want to feel like I'm chasing you. And he's like, do you feel like that? And she's like, yeah, sometimes I do. I bet you do feel like that, bitch. You brought him onto the ultimatum. You're issuing an ultimatum. Marry me. And it's like, that's basically a proposal. There's some parts about the patriarchy that I don't want to dismantle. And one of them is I'm not proposing to no will ever hear from me. Imagine me getting down on my knee, girl. The thought of it. I would get down on one knee to propose to a man. Best believe my shoe was untied or I found a quarter. There ain't no way in hell. Like I have to drag you onto Netflix television to get you to marry me. It's fucking wild. My pride would not have it. It shan't have it. Scotty and Arya get into an argument about non-sexual physical touch. Again, it's not something that comes to her naturally. Apparently, this is the argument that they've had a lot. I understand that. He does seem to come to this conversation really hot. It shouldn't even be an argument. It's like, you know that that's not something that comes to her naturally. So giving her some grace in that is important. Same way that she should give you grace in certain things as well. He starts like berating her. You're not meeting my expectations, essentially. Like, and if you're not meeting my expectations, we don't need to get married. You issued the ultimatum. You want to marry her. What leverage do you have, nigga? Oh my God, he's such a I have to get the last word type of and
It just irritates me.
All right, well, be irritated. I'm gonna be honest.
so childish and exhausting. Like, oh my God. JR is still being weird. He says something along the lines of like, you thought I was leaving here with Sandy? And Zaina is like, no, never, not at all. And he was like, why not? And I'm like, weird. He's like getting off on it. The idea that two women may want to be, it's just weird. Or just like multiple women in general find him attractive. I think you said something about growing up kind of a loser. And I was like, yeah, he still got loser. Y'all, ironically, these three losers are arguing about another loser. And it's just like exhausting. Anyway, all these losers in their loser ass competition with each other. It's like, But before you know it, it's time for people to pick their partners. Are they going to go home with their original partner? Are they going to go maybe with one of the people they had a trial marriage with? Or are they going to leave single? And again, basically, I felt like everybody should break up. If anyone should stay together, maybe Caleb and Mariah, but Caleb, they also need therapy. And he's kind of, I don't know, kind of shifty. I don't know if he's fully honest with himself about some things and like, I'm gonna need you to be more upfront. I don't know. But now it's time to answer the ultimatum. And of the 4 remaining couples, 2 couples actually get engaged. Would you like to guess? It's Mariah and Caleb. Not really shocking. Again, they had arguments on camera, but it all felt very like not great for TV arguments. So they were probably fine, generally speaking. And Scotty and Arya, which I don't know why she accepted. Because honestly, when she did it, she looked uncomfortable and unsure and maybe even a little unhappy. Like just, he says a lot of bullshit, a lot of intense, they're whispering into each other. And she's like, yes, I'll marry you. But I'm like, are you sure, bitch? Because I don't think you're sure. Your face don't look like you're sure. For the other 2 couples, JR basically says that he's not in the place to be married, which we already knew. And Zaina seems to take that pretty well. He lets her down by saying like, I'm not in the place to give you all the things that I want to give you as a husband. And I'm like, baby, just go. Trust him. He said it. He knows. He ain't gonna treat you right. Just go. Let him be a hoe. He wants to be a hoe. She does applaud him for crying. Apparently that must be reaching reaching deeper because he doesn't cry. He hasn't cried since he was 15 or whatever. Girl, whatever. Goodbye. And then Nick and Sandy don't get engaged. He said that he goes into his lapel and he's about to reach for something and she thinks he's reaching for a ring. Apparently later we find out he was reaching for a piece of paper, maybe a note or something, but she got like visibly uncomfortable, and I guess that's when he was like, oh, you really don't want to marry me. I don't know why you're just now getting it, but okay. And basically he takes her implicit refusal as she doesn't love him, which who said that? Nobody said that. We said she don't want to marry you. But I think he already has a lot of anxieties on like her proving her love anyway, hence why we're here. So that's no shocker to me. It's fine. End the relationship, please. Okay, now we have 2 surviving couples, supposedly. So that's all our couples, and now we are here for the reunion. It's 1 year post the ultimatum answers. People look virtually the same except for Arya. She seems to have like just got her titties done, just got off the table. They up to her chin, like yeah, they need a little time to drop. New titties always look like they hurt a little bit, so I think she was in the early titty stage. I've never gotten my titties done, but whenever I see new titties, I'm like, oh, that looks painful. Okay, so everyone comes to the reunion except for one of the couples that left early. I saw Russet run by and I thought she was a giant rat. I was like, what the f is that? Spoiler, the one couple that doesn't come is Chanel and Micah. Shocker, we barely see them on camera. But later we will have Vanessa and Dave come in for a quick second to talk about why they decided to leave early. First conflict that they discuss is Caleb, Arya, and Mariah, particularly whether or not Caleb was being honest about how he felt about Arya during their trial marriage and whether or not he thought it was truly just platonic. Arya comes in a little hot in a way that kind of confuses me, honestly. Again, maybe this is because I just don't understand people's attachments, ironically, to social media as a person who is, I hate the word a content creator. She's like, oh, it's just platonic, but you were watching my stories and liking my stories. And he's like, I mean, I watched Zaynah's stories and I liked her story. Like, that's things that friends do, in my opinion. I'm like, okay. He was like, and then you blocked and unblocked me. And he was like, you're not blocked. I don't. Anyway, and Arya's like, it just felt like both of you guys were very fake, Mariah and Caleb, and that it didn't show that she would call him all the time when they were in a trial marriage because she didn't trust him. Mariah didn't trust Caleb. And Mariah's like, I did feel like I was in the dark because you told me it was just friendship, and then we watched the show when it comes out, and I'm like, that's not just friendship. So like, what the f was going on? And he was like, I think in my mind, I thought if I didn't build an emotional connection, I didn't cross any boundaries, and I needed to be more honest with that there was an emotional connection there, and I should have been more upfront with that. My thing is, if you weren't going to build that emotional connection, what the f are you doing on the f show? If your boundary is, let me not do the point of the show, why get on the show? Why lie about it? I don't understand. But he admits that he should have been more transparent about how there were feelings growing between him and Arya, whatever. Okay, speaking of Arya, shocker, Scotty and Arya are already broken up. They ended their engagement the day after he proposed. Like right after filming, they were like, actually, let's not do this. They try to make it work. Basically, she said she didn't want to reject him on camera because he takes rejection so poorly. Yeah, honestly, he strikes me as the type of that will have a full out tantrum. That's hard to get rejected for a proposal in general, right? And then you add on there a man who already has issues with rejection. Then you add on that a man that also gets very nasty when he feels slighted or embarrassed. And then you add on that his proposal being done on television. You know what I mean? So I get why she'd be like, I don't want to marry you. But anyway, yeah, they decided to end the engagement, but start over. They try to work on their relationship. They move in together, see if that helps. She tries to get him to do therapy, which he refuses at first. I guess he thought it was a bluff, but eventually they go to couples therapy, and it just, y'all have fundamental issues in the relationship. Yeah, you're gonna break up anyway, so they break up. In the course of talking about the therapy thing, she had basically issued a different ultimatum, like, we need to go to therapy, otherwise I can't do this anymore. And essentially he thought she was joking. I assume he just said, oh, okay, whatever. She was like, I'm going to break up with you. Then a year later, he's like, okay, let's do therapy. And then on stage, he's like, but she wanted it done on her terms. She was like, no, I wanted you to acknowledge that I said this a year ago, and I wanted you to apologize to me for making us suffer again another year when we could have just gone. And I want you to apologize for waiting. And I'm tired of asking you to apologize to me. Ooh. Also, there was other stressors. She had lost her grandmother, who she was very close to, and also had a miscarriage, which can take a toll on a relationship even if y'all were on a good place. But considering they're already on very rocky ground, that they were going to break up anyway. So, okay, JR and Zaina apparently say they kept in contact after the show a little bit. Zaina seems to have gotten some grievances with JR since the end of taping, because again, when he says he's not ready to get married at the end of the show, she takes it rather well. And it seems like they had tried to continue their relationship, but it was kind of murky because he still wanted to be single and he wanted to figure out what he wanted, but he also wanted to fuck her still. And she moved across the street. Like, she moved out of the apartment they shared together, but it was across the street, so not that far away. And she's like, what is this? Like, what are we doing? When she wasn't cool with this weird nebulous thing, he's like, no, I'm technically single. I just want to keep fucking you. They had a rough go at it. And she's basically saying that the show allowed her to see more of his red flags more clearly because she was so in love with him. She couldn't hear some of the things that, and you know, it happens to the best of us, but she couldn't hear what he was saying. She even tells us that right before they started recording, she had gotten a text, like a screenshot from a woman who said that she had been talking to JR and he was flirting with her heavily. And when she brought it to him, he said it was Photoshop. I'm like, ooh, girl. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, after this, they end up bringing up the whole quote unquote mystery of the hall pass comment from JR. Like, where did that come from? Zaina brings out a QR code on her nail. Who is your nail tech? By kid's ass. Like, they put a QR code on her nail that sent to a folder that she called receipts, one of which was a screenshot of conversation that she had with JR that basically showed that Scotty wasn't talking shit about him and that the hall pass comment actually came from Aria, and she was like concerned about it. So she was very frustrated that he had gone to Scotty starting some shit when he knew that Scotty wasn't starting no shit, at least in that moment. And then they play a compilation of JR flirting really grossly, some unseen clips that we hadn't seen. One of the worst, probably the worst comment that he said, I believe to Aria, was, who knows what could happen in 3 weeks? I could get you pregnant or something. Then they also show a clip of him basically saying that he has a hall pass. Verbatim.
I got a hall pass.
So I wonder where that comment about him saying he was here for a hall pass came from. Switching gears, they bring out Vanessa and Dave, and it's very awkward, where Vanessa mostly is talking to Nick about her reasons for why she left. It's pretty nebulous and vague, but what I get from it is that off camera, Nick had trauma dumped on her and started to spiral and shut her out emotionally. So there was nothing really to work on with him. And he was very mean and ugly, started to drink a lot, which he does like talk about. He's very rude and cold. And she was like, I don't think I can get anything out of this. And Dave already had checked out because he didn't really like anybody. So they just left. Nick does admit and own up to the way that he behaved. He was like, I was drinking a lot and Vanessa was trying to be supportive, but I completely shut her out. I was very rude. And I understand that it was a complete roller coaster of emotions. And that's a lot for people. And Vanessa was like, yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions on the first day. Like, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot. And he's like, I went to rehab and Sandy drove me, I assume for like alcohol. So that's great. I wish he would focus on that only right now, but apparently he is in a new relationship and he says he feels more seen than ever and more great. And I hope that's actually true. I would prefer you not be in a relationship though. I think you need to focus on yourself. But I digress. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if during that time he was outright verbally abusive to Vanessa, because that seems like the space that he was at. So again, we don't see it on camera, so I'm this is all speculation. I don't know, but just based vaguely off of what Vanessa was saying, like he was really ugly and mean. So I left. Sandy comes in and she's like, yes, that is the type of person. This is how our relationship was, just ups and downs and ups and downs. And I'm like, baby, I think a relationship in its best moments are two people that are happy to be bored together. Like, sure, I'd prefer not to be bored, but I like being bored with you. Ain't every day gotta be a fucking gauntlet of emotions. Like, I ain't doing all that shit. Especially like you go to work, then you gotta come home to his bullshit. I know. Finishing up, Zaina tells everybody that she froze her eggs. It was something that that she's been wanting to do, and she doesn't want her desire for a child to dictate how quickly she makes connections with people, which good on you. Yes, great decision, which I love that. Please don't rush into marriage because you feel like you should be married at X age. That is not a reason to marry somebody. You marry him because you found somebody that's good to marry. But yeah, that's basically the season. The only couple still together is Caleb and Mariah, and they said they're getting married in 2026, destination wedding. So good for them. But yeah, that's season 3 of The Ultimatum. I really need y'all to bring like a couple therapists on set. I think that would it up in a good way. Or if they did a spinoff, again, pay me for my idea. Look, if they try to me and take my idea, rest assured, clip this shit, run me my money. I want my producer credit, bitch. Out of here. Oh my God, the show got so much better. Why is everyone like learning from their mistakes? It seems that someone like KennieJD on the set. I do what I can do. What can I say? Anyway, all jokes aside, happy 2025. Let's make this one as best as we can. If you like this video, feel free to like this video. Follow me on my social media, Instagram and Bluesky, because I haven't tweeted in like 2 months. So if you're curious what I'm up to, curious what I'm talking about, I'm on Bluesky. I'm thinking about being a bit ambitious this year, okay? I've been cooking a lot on Bluesky. Like I've been showing like meals that I've made. I love a little glaze on some chicken. I made honey gochujang chicken and it was fire. I make a bomb ass pot roast. I'm working on perfecting my mac and cheese recipe. I'm getting close, I feel like. I'm definitely finding my niche. So I'm still working through that. But I kind of want to make like a cooking shorts or TikTok. If TikTok is still around, I hope it still is. I don't know what's going on with that as of filming. Like a cooking channel, chaotic cooking, maybe. Chaotic cooking with, let me make the channel first before I say that. Yeah, I also kind of want to make another channel too. I don't know. I'm thinking about making several channels this year. I'm also looking for more editors, so feel free to email me if you're interested. KennieJD@gmail.com. Please do not email me unless you're trying to be my editor, please. Also, please have like examples of your work. I appreciate that because I've been looking for editors and it feels like everybody makes like a very particular type of edit and I hate it. I feel like people that watch my channel watch me partially because the vibe is completely different from that. Like, you'll never believe how many gumdrops I can fit inside my molar. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.